Hi everyone, it's Marla. It's that time again. It's the weekly reading for November 7th. And it's a really big week. I have a lot to talk about and I'm sure I'm going to forget something. It's a great reading though. I think you're going to like it. And we have a big astrological event happening this week, and that is the new moon in Scorpio at 19 degrees. And that's on Wednesday, 11/11. And some of you that watch my videos are familiar with 11/11, and its meaning has a symbol of awakening and balance and being mindful of our thoughts, because it's a period of manifestation. So the new moon falls on a very powerful gateway day. So let's get to the energy and see what this new moon is going to be all about. The first card is the overall energy, and that is tradition. So generally this card means, it usually represents the Pope, the church, teaching, ceremonies, religious indoctrination. And what I'm getting about this card this week is that we're actually going to be questioning our beliefs. You know, those of us that are on a spiritual path question those things that come to us just from tradition. They don't always serve our best interest. And it's good not to follow things blindly. We have an astrological aspect helping us here this week, and that is called a yod, or a finger of God. And it's two planets sextiling each other, and then both of those planets are quincunx a third planet, and they form a triangle. And it's called a finger of God because it seems to point to something in the chart. So we have the new moon, which is the sun and the moon in exact conjunction, sextile Jupiter, and both of them in conjunct Uranus. So the sun and the moon represent the self, Jupiter represents the beliefs, and Uranus is revolution and rebellion. So you can see the energy is directing us to question our beliefs and maybe revolutionize some of them. Or, you know, simply get rid of those that aren't serving us. When we're on a path of self-mastery, which is what we are when we're on the spiritual path, we don't need a third party to tell us what our morals should be. When you're on the spiritual path, you're in touch with God. You don't need an intermediary. You have your own connection to God, Goddess. And that's how you receive your morals. That's how you get information about right and wrong. It's not through things that are passed down through tradition. Also on this card, we have Romeo and Juliet. And they represent a break with tradition. You know, traditionally their families hated each other, and they shouldn't have even been speaking, but they chose to break the tradition. And even though the story doesn't have a happy ending, it wasn't because they broke with tradition. In fact, the story has a sad ending because of tradition. Because being that the tradition was their families hated each other, they had to hide. They weren't allowed to be their authentic selves. And this card can also represent the mask that we wear in public. So because they couldn't be their authentic selves and they were in hiding, That is really what caused their downfall. So that is going to be a very strong influence this week. And after the sun and the moon move away, Mercury is going to be moving into that position. And remember, Mercury is our thoughts and the way we communicate. So we might find we have some radical new ideas and beliefs around how we're going to communicate as well. The second card is the hidden influence. The Ace of Cups. And the Ace of Cups represents a new beginning in love or a new beginning emotionally. And cups are water signs. They're affiliated with the water signs. And Scorpio is a water sign. So this is perfect for our new moon in Scorpio. And you see there's even a moon on it, even though it's a full moon and not a new moon. And the sign of Scorpio, which rules the 8th house, and the number 8 is all about balance. This is the energy of the other in Scorpio. Scorpio rules transformation, death, sex, metaphysics, and other people's money. So you see through sex and other people's money, this is the coming together of the individual with another. And Scorpio has a water sign, really wants to eliminate the boundaries between one person and another and completely merge with them. I like to use the metaphor of a river coming to the sea. And when they meet, they completely merge. You don't see where one begins and one ends. And of course, that's the same when we're having physical intimacy with someone. And the sun represents the masculine. The moon represents the feminine. So we see with this new moon, we have a complete blending, merging, and balancing of the masculine and feminine. And on one hand, that's a blending of your inner masculine and feminine, which everyone needs. But it could also come through as a new love, a new romantic relationship, one that is very spiritually based. This card can also represent creative projects, and so that's where the internal blending of the masculine and feminine come in, because it's through the balance of masculine and feminine that we're able to create and manifest. We also have Venus this week, who is moving into Libra, which is her own sign. So she's very powerful there. And she's still traveling with her son, Anteros. She's been traveling with him for quite a while. And Anteros is the god of requited love. And they're both an aspect to Saturn and Neptune. So that is facing our fears. With the Saturn, we need to face our fears. But with Neptune, Venus-Neptune is unconditional love. And because her son, Anteros, is there, we can be assured this week that our love is returned. also conjuncting Saturn, and Saturn is sextiling Venus. He has two asteroids conjunct him. One is Abundancia, which is the Roman goddess of abundance. And she carries a cornucopia that's overflowing. And abundancia shows that there's enough for everything, that the universe is abundant and everything we want is available to us. And also the asteroid Destin, which simply shows things that are destined to occur. And Saturn and Neptune have been squaring each other, and they're going to be squaring each other for a while. And Neptune is our dream, and Saturn is manifesting that dream. Well, Saturn, let me rephrase that, because Saturn isn't necessarily manifestation, but Saturn creates the foundation in reality. Saturn is very grounded energy. Saturn is about making things real and being on your path. So if your dream is on your path, Saturn right now is helping you build the foundation. And because Destin is there and Abundancia is there and they're sextile to Venus, this is great creative energy. And again, this card shows that we can we can start a new creative project and be successful with it. The third card is advice from Spirit. The Three of Cups. So 2 cup cards, so we can expect a very emotional week. This card is about celebration. So Spirit is telling us that it's a time to let go and have fun, that life is abundant. Be happy. Celebrate. This card can also represent new beginnings. It can represent a marriage, or ironically, it can also represent divorce that makes a way for marriage. You know, happy times. It can mean a reunion. It's a 3 card, so it represents the Trinity, or 2 opposites coming together to form a third. And in the creative process, we take the masculine and the feminine and we combine them to make a third energy, which is the creative energy. We have 2 cards this week that represent that with the 3 people on them. Both these cards represent marriage. So it's definitely a good week for love. Both these cards can also represent pregnancy. So if you find yourself merging masculine and feminine in reality, you might want to take precautions if you don't want to manifest a third creative energy. The Three of Cups is also about healing. And a renewed sense of health. All right, I think I'm going to move on to the last card, which is our goddess card about the moon. And the goddess that represents this new moon is Aphrodite. So again, the theme of love is here. Inner goddess, awaken the goddess within you through dance, self-care, and appreciating your divinity. So we have all this new moon energy about merging the masculine and feminine. And we get the Aphrodite card. So perhaps most of us are lacking in the feminine energy, and we need to bring that energy forward. And the feminine energy is more receptive. It's more intuitive. So get in touch with your intuitive side. And Aphrodite, of course, is also known as Venus. Venus is her Roman name. And she represents love and beauty and passion. And Aphrodite helps keep people together through her passion and her love. And Aphrodite is kind of a unique goddess in that she's completely independent, and she has a lot of affairs. She doesn't apologize for her how do I want to say it? She doesn't apologize for her sexual needs. You know, and it kind of makes an interesting juxtaposition to this card, which is, you know, the goddess. When I think about the goddess energy and how it's been repressed through tradition. And definitely is a time for us to let that go. There was a couple other aspects I want to mention with this new moon. We have an asteroid called Alma on the degree before the new moon, and Alma means soul. Then on the degree of the new moon, we have an asteroid called Mora, which is fate. She represents the Morai in Greek mythology. And then on the degree after the new moon, we have the asteroid Union. So those aspects really pertain to a possible soulmate coming into your life at this time. It's a very big week for love and even possibly marriage for some of you. Or starting something, you know, creative. All right, I think I'm going to end it there. I hope you have a great week. Don't forget to take some time to manifest at this new moon. Write down the things that you are hoping to create and watch for them to come to some sort of fruition by the full moon. If you'd like a personal relationship reading with me, you can visit my website at eclipseastro.com. Thank you, I love you, and I'll see you next week.